Every 4th of July, in the quiet coastal town of Seward, Alaska, thousands of people gather for one of the most brutal and iconic mountain races in the world, the Mount Marathon Race. It's not just a race, it's a test of grit, tradition, and raw human willpower. Runners claw their way up nearly 3,000 feet of loose shale, mud, and cliffside rock, then tumble back down to the finish line in a spray of sweat, blood, and gravel. But in 2012, amidst the crowds, celebration, and chaos, one man ran up the mountain and never came back. A veteran, a father, a first-time racer. Michael LeMaitre disappeared during a public event with thousands of spectators. How does that happen? This is 30-Minute Mysteries. I'm your host. And today, we examine one of the most haunting disappearances in Alaska's modern history, the vanishing of Michael LeMaitre. Michael LeMaitre wasn't the kind of man you'd expect to become the face of an unsolved mystery. He was a husband, a father of 3, a grandfather. At 66 years old, Michael had lived a full life, not flashy, not famous, but meaningful. He was a retired Air Force veteran with more than 2 decades of service behind him. After his military career, he settled in Anchorage, Alaska, where he worked as a counselor helping other veterans transition to civilian life. Those who knew Michael described him as calm and intelligent, a man who thought before he spoke. He was introspective, but approachable, analytical, yet soft-spoken. He didn't seek attention, but he showed up for people. Whether it was his family, his co-workers, or a struggling veteran, Michael made time. Physically, he stayed active, not because he was a fitness nut, but because he believed in pushing his limits. He liked walking, hiking, and maintaining discipline. He believed the body could influence the mind, and that challenges helped shape character. That mindset led him to the Mount Marathon Race. Michael wasn't a professional athlete. He wasn't even an avid runner. But he was drawn to the race as a test, a way to prove to himself that age and limitations didn't have to define him. In fact, it was something he had been thinking about for years. The Mount Marathon Race was legendary in Alaska, a rite of passage. But Michael knew it wasn't just a scenic hike. He trained for it. He spent time walking steep hills around Anchorage, practicing uphill endurance, researching the route, studying past races. He even went to Seward in advance to preview the course. His wife, Peggy, was nervous, and rightly so. The race was infamous for injuries, broken ankles, concussions, gaping cuts. But she supported him. So did his children. For Michael, this wasn't about glory or speed. He wasn't trying to beat the clock. He just wanted to finish, to climb that mountain, to say he had done something difficult. That year, 2012, was going to be his first Mount Marathon race. He received bib number 548. And on the morning of July 4th, he joined hundreds of other runners in downtown Seward, ready to face the challenge head-on. He had no idea what the mountain had in store for him. To understand how someone can vanish during a race, you first have to understand the race itself. The Mount Marathon Race isn't long, just over 5 kilometers round trip, but it climbs nearly 3,000 feet in 1.5 miles. That's steeper than many mountaineering routes. The ascent is brutal, the descent chaotic. Since 1915, runners have been lining up on 4th Avenue in downtown Seward, charging into the wilderness in an event that has become part sport, part ritual. The mountain overlooks Resurrection Bay. It is stunning, and dangerous. The trail is unrelenting. Thick mud, rock slides, loose scree, sections so steep you climb on hands and knees. On the way down, runners often lose control, sliding, falling, bleeding. The crowd cheers. Paramedics wait at the finish line. People break bones, but they come back the next year. In 2012, the race was especially treacherous. The weather had turned. Rain had soaked the ground the day before. Fog covered the upper slopes. Visibility was down to mere feet. That year, more than 400 runners entered the senior men's division. Michael LeMaitre was in the final wave. He was among the oldest competitors, but he was determined. He knew the risk. Michael was slower than most. Race officials noticed. Volunteers spotted him at checkpoints. By all accounts, he was struggling, but smiling. At around 2:30 p.m., a course official spotted him near the turnaround, the uppermost point before runners descend. Then he was gone. No one saw him come down. He didn't cross the finish line. At first, people assumed he had turned back. But when sweepers, volunteers who follow behind the final racers, reached the bottom, they realized something was wrong. Michael wasn't there. His name wasn't called. His chip didn't register. He had simply vanished somewhere on the upper slopes of Mount Marathon. By that evening, a formal search had begun. Dozens of volunteers joined professionals. Helicopters with FLIR cameras, search dogs, mountain rescue experts. They fanned out across ridges, gullies, forested outcroppings. But the mountain gave nothing. They found no backpack, no hat, no bib, no GPS signal. Not even a footprint beyond the turnaround. Some feared he had fallen into a crevasse, hidden between boulders, or slipped into a ravine obscured by fog. The LeMaitre family watched in agony as each day passed. After a week, the official search ended. Michael's wife begged for help in interviews. His children climbed the slopes themselves. Still, nothing. Was it a tragic accident? Likely. But speculation lives on. Some believe Michael had a heart attack and collapsed in the fog. Others say he may have chosen an alternate descent, a mistake many first-time runners make, and fell somewhere far from the official trail. Conspiracy theories exist too, that someone found him injured and panicked, that he was mistaken for a threat, that foul play occurred. But none of it holds water. The simplest explanation is the hardest to accept. The mountain took him. Quickly. Quietly. Completely. And that's the mystery. In the years since Michael LeMaitre vanished, the Mount Marathon race has changed. Safety sweepers now follow behind the final runner, ensuring no one is left alone. GPS devices are encouraged. Racer qualifications are stricter. And the story of bib number 548 is never far from anyone's mind. For Michael's family, the grief lingers. His wife Peggy once said in an interview, "I want answers, not for blame, but for peace." A settlement was quietly reached between the family and race organizers. But peace? That's harder to come by. Still, every year on the 4th of July, runners gather in Seward. And somewhere near the start line, a small plaque bears Michael's name. They don't issue bib 548 anymore. And though his footsteps were lost, his presence remains. On race day, when fog curls around the peaks and the crowd falls silent for just a moment, some say you can still feel him up there, watching, waiting, not gone, just beyond the summit. For those who were inspired by Michael's attempt, the race now bears a deeper significance. A group of runners form a tribute team every year, running in his memory, embodying his spirit of perseverance. On a clear day, you can see the mountains for miles, and on the trail, you can feel the legacy he's left behind. His story has transcended the race itself, becoming a part of Alaska's mystic tapestry, a whispering reminder of both the beauty and peril of the wilderness. The Mount Marathon continues to challenge those daring enough to enter, forging new tales in its harsh terrain. But among those stories, Michael's will always be a hallmark of both courage and mystery, a reminder that sometimes the most profound adventures come with the most enigmatic tales. In 2013, a tribute hike was organized, drawing participants from across the country who wanted to honor a fellow adventurer. They gathered at the base of Mount Marathon, sharing stories of Michael, the man most had never met but felt connected to. One by one, they ascended the mountain, retracing the footsteps of Bib 548, leaving behind small stones painted with messages of hope and remembrance. The air was thick with emotion, as climbers quietly talked about the shared human spirit that pushes us to explore, despite the risks. As they reached the turnaround, someone had placed a small flag, a silent tribute to a man who never came back down. It fluttered in the wind, a beacon of resilience and the enduring mystery of the human drive to conquer and connect. When they descended, they carried not just Michael Thie's memory, but the realization that each of them was now also a part of this story, of this mountain, of this enduring enigma. Years passed, and the story of Michael LeMaitre became an indelible part of the Mount Marathon lore. New generations of racers knew his name before they heard of past champions. His disappearance served as both caution and catalyst, reminding all that the mountain is unchanged and unyielding. In 2018, a documentary aired, gathering national attention. And for the first time, Michael's grandchildren spoke publicly, cherishing the memory of a grandfather who was larger than life. He always said, "Go as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll see farther," his youngest granddaughter recounted, her voice steady with pride. Events like these highlight not only the mystery surrounding his disappearance, but the strength left in its wake. The annual race day now doubles as a commemorative festivity, celebrating human endurance and the mysterious allure of the wilderness. And mixed in with the cheers of triumph and shouts of encouragement is a shared understanding, a silent promise that Michael's story, like the mountain, will endure through time.